Greetings, friends, crew member of our beloved, polluted, and unique spacecraft, which, since the last time we met, around this means has taken a turn about its many axis and course continue creating eventful development. And they are very interesting, but we're back with the topic that we had put out before, something that was extremely important. And this is something that we can see in all news reports, which is the displacement of the geoeconomic, political, and technological access towards the underestimated power by the big empires. And it's time to wake up. And of course, this brings events to Mr. Trump, because we're speaking of the Pacific and we have go to the other side to finish reading about this. And we're speaking front to front with the United States. So here we're reaccommodating the places around the world with the tectonic plates. And there's a lot of readings to this. None of them will come as for the person. The meaning in the White House that becomes, by the day, less sensitive, less humane. And that's enough for now. And events in full development. The Chinese country that we had the chance to visit, where everyone rode their bike, is now an unstoppable power. And this is what represents the exchanges, containers, ports, and the modern way of managing them. What can be done in Beijing if the United States become top with this? This is the panorama of the industrial port of Shanghai. A lot of containers. This is a huge port. And based on this, Jeremy Thompson Cook, the economic manager for strategy, the fact that the United States have to remain on China as the objective for the local policy of the United States means that we are starting progressing more and more toward the commercial war, and we're doing increasingly fast. We have said this for many years, and of course the difference is that there's a substantial deficit in the trade between the United States and China, and this is carried out by China because they only have a limited number of exports for the United States, to which they can react. Now we can see how the containers are lifted and they are shipped with trucks. These are very, very modern ports in China. They're extremely technologically plain about the potential of this country, and they will not stop growing. Everything here is mechanized, everything is cleansed, and the discipline here is incredible. You don't see the mistakes that you often see in other ports. The manager for the strategies of Exchange World First mentioned, if we are to look at the tariffs and where they are being set in China, they're focusing in the stage of intermediate manufacturing. They are being focused on things as the equipment, generators, tractors, and then we have nuclear reactors, energy, optical cables, and other things that are manufactured in China and that could be also manufactured in the United States. But the United States are losing this competition. The Chinese approach to the United States has been agricultural, and it has been based on things as fruits and soy. These are the states that should mainly be focused for the greatest scheme. This is a Boeing plane, and Boeing Industries are still looking for a new market. And a very important part for this, the previous mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, a billionaire, spoke about this. And he mentioned, certainly it is true that some workers believe that jobs are being lost, but history shows that more jobs are created when there's open trade. Even though if you don't believe this, you need to operate and support the economy. This has been, of course, based about Trump, this has been on purpose, but our residents need to explain themselves how they will be managed after the things Trump has said that have slowed down international economy.
Because the path we're on now does not end well.
That is Broadcom, one of the biggest telecommunication networks. Let me remind you that the words in development and full development are trademarks, legally trademarked by this program and yours truly. Even though we are broadcasted by another channel, they cannot take ownership of what's not theirs. United States are part of a commercial conflict that has taken place in the financial markets on Tuesday after Donald Trump has threatened on imposing tariffs of other $200 billion in Chinese products. Then Beijing accused Washington of a starting commercial war. So I cannot compete with quality or price, so I will set tariffs. This is the response of Trump after he spoke about free trade and every single thing he had to say about this. Trump said on Monday that his threat was just a retaliation to the words of China, whether they were going to set their tariffs. Moon Jae-in of South Korea mentions that cooperation with Russia is key for peace in the Korean Peninsula. This is a very important meeting about these topics, and everyone should pay their attention on this. And Moon Jae-in, according to the official translation of the event, this is how things are carried out. There are some pictures and some videos taken. Everyone is formal, and no one is saying anything that should not be recorded because it wouldn't be appropriate. Everyone is focused in their agendas, but the boss is the only one speaking and only speaks with the authorization of the board. The new northern policy of last year is a dream not only of South Korea but also North Korea that shows a new policy for Russia, and cooperation for this sense is what will bring the openness and fluidity on the markets. And North Korea also, with Kim Jong-un in his statement, and Pan Mun-yong promised denuclearization as well as no more wars. In the meantime, China, Papua New Guinea have agreed to improve the strategic partnership, and for this, they will continue with these quiet images of what's on the inside, a trade war where you need to match what you say with what you see. Therefore, the new northern policy is a dream of the Korean people, answering to the new eastern policy of Russia. Russia's cooperation is the cornerstone for the peace agreement of the Korean Peninsula and prosperity in the north of Asia. Based on this, we must be clear about the things that will be said and say this at the appropriate moment. China is willing to cooperate with others, according to Xi. And for this, Thomas Pritzl, President and CEO of the Pritzl Organization, also had some words to add. Some smiles, tranquility, and exchange. Everyone here is important. For instance, CEO of Volkswagen, Marilyn Berhan-Swan, the CEO of Swire Group, Andrew Stewart Mackenzie, CEO of BHP Billiton, and AMB Property Corporation with Kamida Mohadam, all the important CEOs of transnational companies. Also, Mr. Pritzker. So, a cluster of economic leaders, and this shows the position that China holds today. China is not getting them, but they are getting to China, and this is once again demonstrated. We are no longer in the Beijing of those times where everyone rode bikes. Now everyone has new cars. The problem they have today is, of course, pollution. China reaffirmed that they are willing to cooperate with others in order to build a community with a future. And for this, the statements were clear enough. No one raised their voice or threatened anyone, but there is a process of deepening into reforms, and China is carrying out a very important role in development, as mentioned by Xi, who also spoke about the problems of green, sustainable development, hand by hand with technological innovation and appropriate global governance, as emphasized during this actual global meeting. Participants spoke about how they have provided benefit for the development of China and how it has also provided benefit for them, and they're willing to expand cooperation with China and will participate in the initiative for the route and the belt of the Silk. If you paid attention, you were able to see the size of this hall. It's bigger than a football field and it doesn't have a single column. These are the headquarters of what could be the start of something very important. This is the biggest hall of the world without columns. They are bragging basically about Chinese infrastructure. When we were there, it was impressive to see it, even more than when you watch it on TV.
中国在推动达成气候变化、巴黎协定等方面做出的贡献，体现了在建设人类命运共同体方面的领导作用。中方的“一带一路”倡议符合时代要求，这一倡议为沿线地区带来发展和繁荣。跨国公司愿积极参与。
Como siempre, le damos una
As always, we would like to allow the Chinese colonial country to listen to this conference in their original language.
동북아 번영의 주춧돌이라고 생각하며 그동안 진심으로 노력해 왔습니다. 형님은 작년 9월 동방경제 포럼에 나를 지금 한반도에는 역사적인 대전환이 일어나고 있습니다. 나는 지난 4월 북한의 김정은 국무위원장을 만났습니다. 우리는 판문점 선언을 통해 완전한 백화와 함께 더 이상 한반도에 전쟁은 없다고 세계 앞에
In the meantime, the Western counterpart mentioned, if we are to see the tariffs of what is being said in China, they're focused on intermediate manufacturing and they are focusing on tractors and nuclear reactors, also other types of machinery, including also energy and optical cables. And in the Middle East, Assad pressures and assault in the southeast, while the civilians have now again fled. The troops progress and break all the geopolitics of this area, tanks and soldiers. This is a dramatic footage, while forces of the Syrian government bombed the rebels with artillery in a continuous scale-up event of the president, who has promised to recover the territory that limits with Jordan and Iran that have been occupied by Israel, violating different United Nations regulations, as they often do. When you are there, you will understand why. When you are there, you will realize that no one wants to lose this high place and the view it gives you of the valley surrounding it. No commander would accept this regardless of any United Nations resolution. We have to be there. Central military means show tanks and bullets, as well as the firepower, and the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights mentioned that 2,500 civilians had to flee the city of Musr al-Hariri and the nearby areas to the Dera province during the last few days. Rebel officers provided contradicting witnessing of the displacement and victory. And speak about displacement. People displaced are looking for a refugee or shelter in this school. Well, there's no traffic of human beings because there is solidarity. However, it would be, in most of the cases, development. Women and children sitting on the floor and little children playing there. Women and children together with them as well. Well, Marshal al-Baraj said, I came from Hodeidah, Hassanah, due to the aerial attacks. I used to live in Rabta, near the airport. We left Hodeidah due to the fights, the aerial attacks, and the water supply. Today, we have been displaced, and we're trying a place to be registered. We've been told there's an organization where we can register ourselves as refugees. However, only God knows. People queuing up in the school's court, and these men are registering as refugees, and they're trying to get support either for them or their family members. Hodeida added, I used to live in Al Rabta neighborhood, next to the airport, the street, but after seeing all these aerial attacks that were random, that scared people, we decided to move to a safer area of the city or a different city. The secretary of the capital, Ahmad Anab, also provided his statement about this humane drama, and he mentioned, a great migration is happening. We cannot control it. We don't have enough to help. Take a look at this. This is because there was an aggression. We've called the humanitarian organizations, called themselves humanitarians. We haven't seen any presence of them in Yemen. They're humanitarian, but they aren't here or helping us. The street traffic and people fleeing from the combats of the main port city of Yemen. This is Angela Merkel in a meeting with the Lebanese Prime Minister. She's been welcomed to Libya, and the German Chancellor with the Prime Minister, together with officers, German flags, a red flag, and Hariri arrived to the headquarters of the government with the convoy. A very important protocol for this event. The Prime Minister of Lebanon, Saad Hariri, welcomed Angela Merkel on Tuesday, June 21st in Beirut for a two-day official visit. Merkel has programmed a meeting with Hariri, the Lebanese President Michel Aoun, and David Barry. And it is expected she will have a press conference together with Hariri on Friday, June 22, after an economic roundtable. For this, we expect to see some novelties, and this is also quite important. This is the debate for copper at the European level. The United States want that the battle for the state of law of Poland and the EU gets positive results. The British Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Boris Johnson, and Gavin Williamson, the Director from Poland, Dariusz Błaszczak, Ministry of Defense, and Wilson Blackstone walking together and speaking, while Johnson and Kaptowicz representing the headquarters of the meeting in the beautiful and old display of architecture. Williamson Błaszczak spoke. The conference is about to start, and the Secretary of State, Boris Johnson, provided his statement showing his own position.
Attaches huge value to a free and independent judiciary.
The UK grants a great value to a judiciary-free system, but they also give us a great importance for the right or law of countries to make their own democratic decisions. So I expect conversations being held in Brussels will have a positive result with the goodwill of both parties.
£17.5 billion worth of trade. What we want to be seeing is how we can do more together.
Lo que queremos es estar viendo cómo podemos hacer cosas más juntos, dos naciones
So we're looking to see and able to do things together, work together to bring security and prosperity. That's why we'll be looking at how we can exercise together with the armed forces and go beyond the future with the things that we have learned from the past. This is why we'll be supporting Poland when they decide to take over the NATO with a great responsibility, with a work group for preparation for 2020 with support for them, by proposing a mechanized brigade as Poland supported us when we were leading this work group the last year. England should never forget the heroic role of Polish workers who flew for the Royal Air Force. It was a historic and glorious moment. They showed all their bravery flying their Spitfire. Not only they were flying bravely, but they have the best planes. Boris Johnson hopes that the dispute for law of Poland and the EU will have positive results. and this is the British Parliament with a lot of security measures, approved the law project to withdraw England from the EU. Westminster's reinforced guard, and this is something you see very often in England. Many flags of Great Britain, people walking down London, and they are calm regardless of the security measures. The law project about the retreat of the European Union exit and assimilated. So, the vote was 319 to 303 to reject amendment that May wanted to set. In Mexico, they protest against Trump's policies. Of course, they had to do this. And human rights activists that are not identified. Take a look at children. Children are the greatest victims of this drama, and we'll show you why. However, we're not allowed to read these signs, but it's a plain sight that these are the consequences of Trump's measures, who continues looking at his belly button instead of human beings. Here, he's very well characterized. We are the defendants of human rights and representatives of families of Honduras, Guatemala, and Honduras. We'll tell Donald Trump, take back what you said. The wall is going to fall. No one will stop migration anywhere in the world. No one will be able to stop migration headed to the United States. A protester of Honduras, Alonso de Valle, said that the message that I would like to give Trump is that he should stop abusing human beings. He should stop separating children and parents. He should not be treating children as if they would know about the rights. The families of Central American migrants had a demonstration in Tapachula, in Chiapas, Mexico, against the policies of the states for Donald Trump of separating children from their parents during the flight to Mexico. Manuel Arizmendi is looking to attend to his rewe. This is his spiritual reference center. The request was denied by the state. So, of course, we're in Chile. This is about Mapuches. Here in Chile, Mapuche rights have been vulnerated throughout all their life, ever since they invaded this. And today, we're looking for alternatives for progress, but the state is unwilling to answer to the demands of the Mapuche people. We have the right. He has the right to access as well. So, Machi Celestino Córdoba should be able to take his role of a spiritual authority in the Mapuche community. His request to go to Hirrewe and have a spiritual healing ceremony. He is an ancestral authority of the Mapuches in Chile and the single prisoner. And this could lead to a dangerous political scenario of Chile due to the events against human rights, just like the United States. Manuel Arizmendi in Temuco. In the meantime, the Holy Pope, Pope Francis, requests a journalist to say what he saw in the election of Venezuela. The Holy Father was one of the international observers of the presidential elections of Venezuela. I visited 20 voting centers, some of them in the poorest neighborhoods, and people felt proud of freely being able to vote. Vote, according to what I saw, was carried out in democracy, according to respondents of Agenda Giornalistica d'Italia, Salvatore Izzu, to Pope Francis during a pilgrimage in Geneva, Switzerland. We're there once again. Pope Francis asked Izzu to speak freely. Parliamentary Commission urges to restart the dialogue in Nicaragua. The Congressman of Foreign Affairs National Assembly of Nicaragua reaffirmed the commission to continue with dialogue for the creation of peace. After 2 months of social-political crisis that has been fostered by focus of violence, given the search of people for free circulation and common well-being, mentioned they adhere to this wish. And the representatives of dialogue are there to put together efforts for their immediate implementation, according to members of the parliament with a communique. Likewise, the organization called for a cease of the violence with tolerance and respect to private and public property as well as life. They also expressed the solidarity with the victims of the violent focus that were trying to destabilize the country and the government since April. 173 people have died ever since, according to the Commission for Truth, Justice and Peace, that is in charge of clarifying the facts that have taken place during this process. I have been part of Nicaraguan dramas and difficult situations when the infamous general was in power, the one who has graduated from West Point. And as the people in West Point mentioned, this is the only cadet of West Point that had an army as a graduation present. You know what we're speaking about. The infamous. The last time we were there, the Red Cross saved us. We were in Matagalpa. And we thought that we were going to be respected as journalists, but it wasn't the case. The president of the Red Cross, of course, we're speaking about the times of Somoza. So there was a convoy, an ambulance of the Red Cross was ahead of us, and then our car, and then another ambulance with a flag of identification. And they say, take the first lane because it will not answer for you. And we're here to tell you the story about this. And I don't know if this is related to this. A sniper killed the president of the Red Cross. They were wearing white scrubs with the Red Cross. You have to be at a war front to understand the reality. None of my screens show information better than the one we have prepared for our second block. Let's take a short break and we will be back with more events in full development. Stay where you are, we will be right back.
We are always there tracking the news. We seek equality. We defend the truth. It's a hard job, but we are not alone. We count on a new ally.
An occasion to enjoy the cultural diversity that defines our South American essence. Come along to find out the story behind these personalities, traditions, and artistic expressions that unite us as a whole. Real Lives, Tuesday, only on Telesur.
Bueno, no es nuestra costumbre,
Okay,
pero
we don't often do this, but due to necessary humanitarian reasons, I will once again make this call. This could mean for someone the possibility of keeping on living. It is requested urgently the provisioning of the following medicine: rapamune, or sirolimus. This is for patient Dilcia Reyes de Adrianza, who had a kidney transplant. Her life depends on this medicine, and it's impossible to get this medicine. No institution in Venezuela has responded, and this is part of the war that we are subject to, but still. Her husband, Professor Dr. Vladimir Adrianza, mentioned that Dilcia only has an scarce amount of medicine that is enough just for a week. As of today, she has only a week to live. We beg for the institution or individual in Venezuela that has the medicine rapamune or sirolimus to get in touch with Dr. Vladimir Adrianza on the following phone number: 0058 41 222 222 05841224861 05841224861, or at the email address vladimiradr@gmail.com. Coordinator, thank you very much. Now, we're going to continue with a statement of our beloved Ambassador Without Borders. This is the Bolivian Army for Dossier with the 30-year traineeship Velas Latinoamericanas, year 2018. Alpha Bravo Simón Bolívar Bravo Eco 11 on June 21st, operational activities. For the traineeship abroad, it continues on the dock Antedique Delta 1 of Callao Base in Peru, and Bravo Eco 11 is fulfilling protocol activities as part of this regatta and the International Maritime Ceremony, amongst which let us remember that whenever the regatta reaches a port, there's a schedule for a visit. It becomes very interesting because they are guided tours with a guide and explanations. And on Tuesday, commissions were appointed for protocol meetings on the school bus AR-7 Gloria of the Colombian Army, ARM Cuauhtémoc of the United States of Mexico, as well as a cocktail party offered by the Yacht Club Marina of Lima. Wednesday, our ambassador was the host, and then the White Goose of Brazil. There were bonds with the rest of the armies, and so far our ambassador has welcomed 8,533 tourists or residents in Callao, Peru, where the cadets have guided them and provided the message of brotherly conditions of the sons of Bolivar. Isolated precipitation, 15-knot winds, good visibility, certain areas of precipitations, waves up to 1.5 meters. And in our Navy glossary too, we're going to speak about the word gaviero, who is the one in charge of gavias. And it's a person who must see how many are there. So whenever you're sailing, this is something you should never forget. José Rodriguez, commander and officer of the Navy, director of coordination and control, and Marco Frachello Arandia, manager of the command report of the Bolivian Army. After saying this, we're going to share with you the second block of information. Take a look at this event in full development. They have just been modified because they bring a very important message. I will let you know about this immediately. This is the World Day of Refugees. And the business person for the Embassy of Venezuela in Peru, with Reinaldo Segovia on board of the traineeship. This is more information about Bravo Eco. Bravo Eco 11, our ambassador without borders. And now we'll speak about more events. 200 immigrant children have been apprehended in Texas in true actual concentration camps, where a city has been built in order to apprehend migrant children and separate them from their families. Immigrant children living in these conditions. Aerial pictures of them, where it can be clearly seen where they are living. It's even difficult to speak about this, but still they do have a roof, but they are being separated from their family. This is not part of any human rights policy. Trump defended his policy of the border and the United States and Mexico, and as this separation increases, including the videos of caged young men, listen, encaged youth on a concrete floor. They are cages with a concrete floor. Here they're trying to blur the image in order to avoid showing their faces, but they are marching to a place we mentioned. The Secretary of the Department of Security, Nelson, who has been appointed by Trump, told journalists in an information meeting of the White House that Trump's administration was only applying the law strictly. Protest for apprehended children was due to the immigration policy of zero tolerance of Trump's administration, which wants to arrest all adults that will be trapped while trying to head into the States.
Against our humanitarian ideas. So we need to do
Christian Nelson said, the price has been to keep it clear that we don't need to use the law against our humanitarian ideas. Thus, we need to do these two things at the same time. So what can we do then? Well, allowing us to do so until the Congress acts upon this. But I would like to be clear. The Congress has the authority and responsibility of creating a law to fix the immigration system. This is a mosaic of mosaics of legal cases. And once this happens, we must ensure that our borders are defended, defend our ideals and our communities. But we need for the Congress to legislate and act upon this. Children with a healthy breakfast, some of them being given some reading material, but they are still there, separated from their family, as it was expected with this new attitude. Chuck Schumer, Democrat senator, said the following about this.
That the president has reversed himself.
It's a relief that the president has reversed himself and acknowledged the cruelty of his own policy of separating children from their parents. I would like to believe that he found this in the goodwill of his heart. We know that there was a lot of pressure over him for this to happen. He didn't do this when he first examined the problem. After weeks of acting as if his administration wouldn't be responsible for this policy, going against every fact and reality, I hope that this represents a decisive moment for the president.
So often, more than any other president, many times over, what he says is,
I hope that this means that the president will stop blaming the rest for the problems, will stop fixing them himself. I hope that the president will realize what is said and done here, because any other president wouldn't act like this. Some children studying, and some teachers writing in a whiteboard. Take advantage of the time. Children playing football, even though it's indoors. Cradles and other baby items, things to allow children to live in a decent fashion. This has been carried out with the help of many people, but so far the human reality is beyond this that we can see here. However, the scandal that was created by Trump's attitude has somehow changed things, because this is completely different to the events shown just a couple of days before. These are Trump's tweets where he speaks about the situation, and based on this,
Democrats have taken full responsibility for securing our borders. We know that is a responsibility that we have, but we don't think that we have to put children in cages to do it. There is a better way. And the president is either not knowing, not caring, delusional, and denial about his own policies, being outside the circle of civilized human behavior.
Mi abuelo Salvador cruzó esta frontera hace un siglo como un
The
bebé.
border was crossed 1 century ago.
Acá hay un secretario de Seguridad que dice
Here,
lo que el
The
presidente hizo ayer
Security
es intentar
Secretary
dejar
said,
claro que no
the president
necesitamos
yesterday
hacer
made
como
it clear
estadounidenses
that
enfrentar
as
la aplicación de la
Americans,
ley en
we
contra de
don't
nuestras
need
ideas
to
humanitarias.
apply the law
Por lo
against
tanto,
our
debemos hacer
humanitarian
ambas cosas
ideas.
al mismo tiempo.
Then we need to
Y
do both
entonces,
things at the same
¿cómo
time.
haremos esto?
So then,
Hay que
how
adaptarse a
will
las
we do so?
circunstancias
We
y
must
tratar de
adapt
llevar
to
alivio
circumstances
a
and
todo
bring
este drama
relief
humano.
to all this humanitarian drama.
And to do it now. Aquí en la frontera es inmoral e inhumano.
Here in the
No
border,
tienes que
it's
ser
immoral
un
and
padre o una
inhumane.
madre para
You don't
saber
have
que
to be a
los niños
parent to understand.
The president retreated today has not solved the problem. We're all saying that. Zero tolerance still exists. That's breaking an American tradition of respecting people fleeing oppression.
Cada quien ha intentado identificar
Everyone
el
has
problema
tried to
desde su
identify
punto
the
de
problem
vista
from their own
y
perspective
explicar
and
que este drama
explain
humano que ya ha
that this
trascendido demasiado.
humane drama that
Pero bueno, es un
has
alivio que el presidente haya
gone
revertido a sí mismo
beyond.
y haya reconocido la crueldad de su
It is
política de separar a los
very,
niños de sus
very
padres.
good
Me
to see
gustaría
that
creer que
Trump
lo
has
encontró
reversed his
de alguna
policy.
manera en
I
algo
would
de
like to
bondad en su
believe that
corazón.
he found some
Ciertamente
love in
ha
his
habido
heart.
mucha presión sobre él,
Certainly, there's
pero
been a
el
lot of
drama
pressure
sigue.
over him, but this continues.
By this administration. As a result of that policy, thousands and thousands of children.
Nancy Pelosi también habría actuado.
Nancy
La
Pelosi
democracia han asumido
also
la responsabilidad
acted,
total de asegurar
and
nuestras fronteras. Sabemos que
democracy
es una responsabilidad
has
que
taken
tenemos,
full
pero no
responsibility
creemos
over the
que
border.
tengamos que
This is
poner
our
a los niños en
responsibility, but
jaulas
we
para
don't
hacerlo.
think that we need
Hay
to
una
put
mejor
children in
manera, y el
cages to do so.
presidente
There is a
cualquiera
better
lo
way.
sabe.
And the president,
delirante
anyone
la
knows
cosa.
about
La
it.
negación de
This
sus
is
propias
delusional.
políticas
The denial of his own
es un ciclo de
policies
comportamiento
is
humano
a
civilizado,
circle
es lo que
of
necesitamos.
inhumane behavior.
To charge tens of thousands of people, which has led to this crisis of thousands of children. The way to stop it is
Miles de niños están en estas circunstancias y es hora de que paremos esto.
Thousands of children are
La
facing this
retirada de
circumstance.
Estados
We need to
Unidos de la
stop this.
Comisión de Derechos Humanos demuestra el doble estándar en los asuntos
There is a double
internacionales.
standard on international affairs according to the Council of Human Rights of the United Nations. It was stated this is a sign of lack of respect to human rights from Trump's administration. And this organization of the United Nations must acknowledge that the way in which they are behaving with immigration children in this humanitarian drama that so far doesn't see an endpoint. All politicians have tried to share their message. However, the humanitarian reality is brutal. The Council of Human Rights of the United Nations have stated that this is a lack of respect to reality. The Democrats are trying to continue and go ahead.
States from the UN Human Rights Council is a sign of contempt on the part of the Trump administration for this world body.
Brian Becker
said, their states treaties, rules, and regulations internationally that are very selectively upon applying them. Trump's administration, with America First, are telling the rest of the world that their states will not follow the same rules and laws that the rest of the countries around the world must fulfill. So an expert in the United States criticized the decision of Washington of retreating from the United Nations Council, and this shows the hypocrisy of the United States against human rights for quite a long time already. And Democrats are not differentiated from Republicans in this migratory policy.
A double standard, I would say hypocrisy when it comes to human rights. It wants to take certain countries that are targeted by the United States, sometimes for regime change, and highlight human rights abuses.
Es una desgracia lo que está ocurriendo.
It is a disgrace what's happening on the borders. They are being treated and separated from their parents and children and put in cages as if they were animals. So, what should be done here?
They're very selective in how they apply them. The Trump administration, with America First, is actually telling the rest of the world,
putting America first, as it is.
Regulations and laws that the other countries of the world have to abide by.
Podemos ver, por cierto, que Estados Unidos trata las reglas y las hace efectivas de forma adecuada a sus intereses. La
uses
administración Trump
rules and
con poner a América
regulations based on
primero,
their
está diciendo al
interests.
resto del mundo
Setting
que
American
no se
first is
tendrá
telling the
las
rest
mismas
of the
reglas
world
y
that
reglamentos
they
y
will
leyes que
not
los
use
otros
the same
países
rules and
del
regulations the
mundo
rest
que
of the
siempre
countries
tendrán
around
de
the world
acuerdo.
are
Los
going
demócratas
to
no se
fulfill.
diferencian de los
Democrats
republicanos
are
en esta
not different
materia.
from Republicans in
Lo
this
más sincero
matter.
de Bernie Sanders, el
And Bernie
candidato a la
Sanders,
nominación demócrata,
the former
dicho,
Democrat
la política de separar a los
candidate,
niños de
said the
sus
policy
padres
of
en la frontera realizada por la administración
separating
de
children
Trump
from their parents at a
es una
border is a
desgracia
national
nacional.
disgrace.
Los niños están
Kids
siendo
are being
arrancados
ripped
de los brazos
away
de sus
from their
padres
parents
y
and
puestos
put in
en jaulas.
cages.
Esto es lo que hemos visto hasta
Parents
ahora y
are
se
being
ve
sent
una
back
guerra
without their
de
kids.
twitters.
This is a
La
tweet war.
administración Trump
Trump's
se ha visto
administration
ahora de cara a la realidad
is now
cuando
facing
le toca
reality
actuar.
whenever they need to act.
Bueno, luego de esto debe parar.
This needs
Esto
to
es una
stop. This needs to
abominación
stop.
moral.
This is a
Lo único
moral
que debemos hacer
abomination.
aquí es parar esto.
It must be
Debe ser
stopped.
parado. Los niños están arrancados de sus familias y puestos en cajas.
Children are ripped away
Bueno,
from their
Bernie Sanders
families
dice,
and
Hillary
put in
Clinton,
cages.
la pre-campaña para la nominación
This is
demócrata
the pre-campaign
sobre los niños
for the
refugiados de América
Democrat
Central. Y esto lo decía
nomination,
ya en
and it's
junio de
about
2014.
Central American children in
Ellos
June
deben ser
2014.
regresados.
They should be
Nosotros
sent
tenemos que
back.
enviar un claro
We have to
mensaje.
send a clear
Solo
message
porque
that
tus
just
hijos
because
crucen
your
la
child
frontera y
gets
entren a
across
Estados
the
Unidos
border
no
does
significa
not mean
que tus hijos
your
tengan
child
derecho
gets
de
to stay.
permanecer aquí. ¿Qué tal?
Huh.
Simpatiquísima Colombia.
Very, very
Muy solidaria.
nice. Hillary Clinton with children
Entonces,
and extending them a
después
hand,
de
right?
esto,
So
Hillary
after this,
Clinton dice en su crítica a Trump,
so when criticizing Trump,
la
Clinton
inmigración
states,
tiene que ser cambiada
immigration
y
policy
hay que
needs to
reiterar,
change, and we need
atacando a
to
Donald
reinstate
Trump,
this, attacking
no
Trump.
logró hacer mejor su
But she
posición.
wasn't able to have a better
Las
position to
jaulas
herself.
que pusieron a los niños es algo dramático.
Children are
Sobre
put
todo
in cages. This
que viene de
is
un país que
dramatic,
se
but
quedó
it
con
comes
más
from
o
a
menos el
country
40% de lo que
that
era
has around
México, ahora que viene
40%
una
of
oleada de
the
gente del
territory
sur,
of Mexico.
hacen
Now,
lo que le da
when
la
there's a
gana
wave
y
of people
piensan
coming
en
from
todo
the south, they
menos
do
en el bienestar de
whatever
los niños.
they want, and they start thinking about the
Esto nos
well-being of
recuerda
children.
ciertas
And we are
etapas
reminded
superadas de
to
la
some
humanidad.
stages we thought we had overcome in humanity.
Aquí son parte de las jaulas, la Premio
Now,
Nobel de la Paz,
they are
Premio Nobel de la Paz,
part
Obama,
of cages. And Obama,
presidente que más ha
Nobel Peace Prize,
deportado
who's the
en los
president
últimos
with
30
most
años,
deportations
recuerda
the last
que la
30
paz superada de la
years.
humanidad, con
We
estos
thought
datos
that
dramáticos
this
de la
was
Segunda Guerra.
overcome in humanity,
La
yes, this
cifra
traumatic
total de
picture of World War
deportados
II.
el
The
30
total
de
number
julio del año
of
2016
deportations on
se
July
acercó
30,
a
2016
2.900.000
was almost
y todavía quedaban
2.8
6 meses
million,
para que entregara el mando
and he was
y ganase la
still
elección de noviembre de
still 6
2016.
months away from
Y ganó
leaving
Trump.
office. And then Trump won
Esto
the
fue
election.
escrito por Jorge Cancino de Univisión el
This
25
was
de agosto
written
de
by Jorge
2016,
Cancino
y hay que
of
rendirle
Univision in
homenaje
2016.
al colega.
And we must
Habría
celebrate
que
what our
sumarse
colleagues said.
a esto los deportados por
We
Donald
should
Trump
add to
el día
these
de hoy, jueves
the
21 de
people
junio de
deported by
2018.
Donald Trump on
Y en ese
2018.
sentido, esto es algo que indigna a todo el
And
mundo.
this enrages the whole of the world.
Lo que estamos viendo dice que
What
la
we
cifra
are
total de
seeing
deportados al
states
30
the
de
total
junio
number
es la que acabamos
of
de mencionar.
deported people
Peña Nieto
is
se
the one we
pronuncia
just
contra
mentioned.
Trump,
Peña
pero
Nieto
felicita
expresses
al
against
conocido
Trump,
chef Pujol.
but congratulates Chef
El chef
Pujol.
le revira.
And Chef
Lo que
says,
importa son los
what
niños.
matters
Y le
are
devuelve la
children. And congratulates him back
Peña
again.
Nieto quiso quedar bien ahí.
Peña
Una
Nieto
vez más,
wanted
que
to
Peña
do
Nieto
things
muestra
right,
que
but
no le
once
importan
again
los
he's showing that
mexicanos.
he doesn't care
Ella
about
se larga.
Mexicans.
No aceptó la
May him
felicitación
leave. He
y
was
dijo,
not
"El
willing
mejor
to
preocupa
receive
no
this
el
congratulation
trabajo
message
del chef,
and
sino
stop thinking about my
sobre
work
los
as chef,
mexicanos
but
por otro
start
lado de la
thinking about what's
frontera.
happening with Mexicans
¿Qué
on the other
tienen en
side of the
común
border.
Estados Unidos e
What do
Israel?
United States and Israel
Ese
have in common,
humanoide SSS.
according to
Separar a los niños de
Humanoide
sus padres.
SSS,
Unos en
separating
jaula,
children from their
otros
parents?
encarcelan
Some
y
of them
asesinan.
cage them,
Mira
while
hasta
others
dónde
them
llega, ¿no?
puts them in jail and kill
Y
them.
esto está
And this
absolutamente rimbombante en todos los medios de comunicación.
is becoming more and more important in all the alternative means. Palestinian children forgotten by the media. They are once again shown in this topic that is warming up and is in full development. And speaking about human rights,
Obama y sus bombas.
Obama and his bombs. Listen to this. Just to be clear, I dropped the bomb every 20 minutes for 8 years. This is what he said. This is the calculation of the mandate of the Nobel Peace Prize.
Every 20 minutes for 8 years.
Okay, Mónica con Cuba, on her Twitter, the United States has carried out 550 attacks with drones in Libya since 2011, more than in Somalia, Yemen, or Pakistan. And apparently this continues what we just mentioned. La Radio del Sur, Venezuela, considered terrible the management of the High Commissioner of Human Rights. The ambassador of Venezuela, Jorge Valero, permanent representative of the Bolivarian country against the United States, mentioned that this was a failure, the management of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Venezuela deemed this with these words. Based on this, Said Rada Hussein mentioned that this worker was subject to a minority group of countries under the empire of the United States. The representative for the United States in Geneva said, "We need to remember that on June 9th, the United States withdrew his country from the United Nations Council by disregarding this organization and showed the hypocrisy of the states against human rights." Sexual torture inside UAE-run prisons in Yemen. UAE officers electrocuted prisoners' genitals, hang rungs from their testicles, sexually violated them with wooden and steel poles. Drawing in depictions, dramatically of course, of anal rape show a man hanging naked from chains. Where is this happening? Well, these are the events taking place abroad, while they are extremely proud of what they do. Murder of social leaders, a calculated plan with the advice of the states to go against popular movements in Colombia and Honduras. The only way to be in power until the peoples wake up. So these are some of the reactions that we have here. Well, the other one is, we know that Santa Barbara County avocados and orange farmers are struggling to find workers amid the immigration crackdown. The workers were paid cheap and salvage the crops. Well, now, Trump supporters, here's your chance to take back those jobs you said immigrants were stealing. Well, now the produce is rotting because no one is being able to harvest them. So take a look at this boomerang, and it's of course disgusting. It was the land of the free. Come to me, those who need it. The legends that used to characterize the great nation of the North. Whenever there's a government as these, and when things start heating up, and they start with this type of neoliberalism, we face situations as this that are, of course, nauseating. This is not a happy ending, but if you don't watch this, you will not be able to watch it in other networks. And we had to somehow show it, because we are either helpful with the rest of the humans, regardless of what we think politically or religiously, or we aren't, because this is our beloved, unique and polluted spacecraft. We don't have any boats to escape from this if we don't take care of it. And if we do not have shame as brothers, as human beings, well, then we are unable to find a people better than a different people. We are not chosen. We are all crew members. We need to take care of it. We are all brothers. Either all of us do this right or none. I don't want to prevent a catastrophe, but let's take a look at the events. It's important to love your brother, but it's not about blah, blah, blah. It's about reality. From Studio 3 of Venezolana Televisión, the pioneering channel of Venezuelan television, inherited from TVN5 in Cerro Marin, Charneca, where we had a direct satellite on the redaction room with the only satellite we had in Latin America. There, I was awarded the journalism reward because I was willing to take this live. And it was just a test because they had a different script here and there. So we were always full of adrenaline, and it was quite interesting. Thank you for allowing us to be there with you. We'll meet again tomorrow after our beloved, polluted, and unique spacecraft had taken another turn about its menu axis. And we'll be back to tell you the small, big story of the next 24 hours. always if God allows. This was Walter Martinez, producer and host of Dossier. Director, the floor is all yours.